Hi everyone, it's Elaine Hamilton from the Reiki Center, and today for the Chit Chat, I have Niru Soni, and she is part of the Reiki Center. She helps me with the teachers, with the teacher training and Reiki training in Singapore. But she's also teaching her Reiki. She's doing healing. She's going to tell us all about that, based in Singapore. So welcome, Niru.
Hi, Elaine, and thank you so much for inviting me.
Oh, you're so
And
welcome. So I thought we might start off with a little bit of background on you in terms of what kind of led you to Reiki in the first place, and then we'll talk a little bit about your journey in Reiki, all the different levels, and what drew you to become a teacher. But first things first, like what made you want to become or interested in Reiki in general?
well, for this, I would like to go back to my childhood and years ago because I think universe gave us, a small nudges about Reiki when I was just 19. And I was in my first job. I started working very early. And it was an office colleague who gave me this small experience, about Reiki. But I think I couldn't understand at that moment because I was not conditioned to believe the inner voice. So I was always confused about what the world wants me to do and what my heart wants me to do. So there was always a confusion. And uh, I think at that level of 19 years old, I didn't have that acceptance and maturity to understand the sacredness of the Reiki energy. Though my office colleagues she tried to explain me, but it didn't. Then she gave me the experience and let it go. So I was conditioned to very linear thinking that you you learn something and you become a master of that, and then you start working, and then society will accept you. So there was always confusion, and that little voice inside always made me think twice because I was sensitive. So the world told me that I'm weak and I will cry. When I hear to the pain and all that, I'll cry. So that means I'm weak. So there was emotional imbalance over there, which affected the decision making as well. So there's no clarity at all. And all these while, for a longer time in my childhood, I was confused because the inner voice tells something and the outer world tells, they will tag you as, you're sensitive, you're weak, and kind of academically, you are very poor, you cannot focus. So I grew up in that kind of environment, and they were, I believe, there were psychic abilities which are knocking on the door. I mean, I could hear, I could sense other energies, but then they were also named or tagged under hallucinations. So I was like totally confused. Who am I?
Yeah.
And
So you had like an inner experience that was different from the mainstream, shall we say, and therefore it was deemed unacceptable, or you were told it was wrong, so then you start to doubt yourself, right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
So I grew up with self-doubt, low self-esteem, low self-confidence
Yeah.
in the mainstream. And as grew up, like they all sometimes mentors also told me that maybe I have ADD. So it's kind of like a lot of name tags were there. So I'm kind of lost in all that. So the inner calling, I would say, was very strong. Then Reiki again came in when I was completely lost, means like I was going through depression after going through difficult and challenging relationships in my life, and I fell into depression and all those suppression because emotions were suppressed all this while, and I don't know how to express myself because it's the confusion state. So all these emotional suppressions started to surface on the physical self. And I went through gastrointestinal disorders, ulcers in my large intestine, hypermigraine state, and all these, like, we name it and it was there. And then I was tired of it because I was quite a resilient person in life,
Mm.
never give up. But then there was no emotional resilience.
Yeah.
And I don't
So
know.
how old were you when all this was happening? Because you were 19 when you had your first introduction to Reiki, shall we say, but you weren't ready. So then when all of these physical ailments started to hit you, like how old were you then?
I think early 20s,
Okay.
when gastrointestinal disorders start to happen, surface on. And over time, it just expanded
Mm.
because all these physical ailments went deeper.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of issues with insomnia. I can't sleep properly. And headache was just a second nature for me till
Really?
it became a hyper migraine state. And and what my parents or family or everyone outside the higher authority told me, I'm very weak. I cannot handle emotions. Be strong. So that became a taboo, like be strong. So what is the definition of be strong? And yeah, so major part of my life was like that. But then yes, as a linear thinking, brought up in a linear thinking pattern, I was working, I was earning for the family, and quite early I started working at the age of 19. I was studying and doing it. Due to unfortunate circumstances at home, then I started supporting my parents, my father. And being an elder child, I was supporting in financial and other aspects too.
Interesting.
However, when I fall into the challenging relationships, I realize that why difficult people come in life and why they are what they are for, what is the role they are playing, why I attract difficult people in life.
Mm.
And then I started studying psychology, like how the mind works, how the subconscious mind works, why people do what they do, and they are not even aware of it. And they are creating the damage around. So they are not aware of it. So I started understanding how the mind functions, what they think, what is the behavior pattern. And through this journey, I'd say I found myself.
Mm.
I came across Reiki, and then I realized that the moment I had a first session with you, and I sit in that class, I realized that I'm home. The first feeling was I'm home. And
It's such a common revelation, isn't it, when people come to Reiki?
yeah,
It's that feeling of homecoming. It's funny, Karen said the same thing. And I mean, I had exactly the same feeling. I was like, it was almost like, this is what I've been searching for all these years. Right? So interesting. Mm.
and I studied how the mind works, how I studied psychotherapy, counseling, and other stuff. But then I realized there's a missing piece there. In the therapy sessions, yes, we open the the wounds, but where is the bandage? Where's the healing? There's something missing out there. And then I collected that, oh, that's a healing part. And I went to Reiki, and it was also in psychology school. It was a friend who asked me to be a volunteer client for her. And the moment I had that session with you, and like, oh my God, this is what is the missing piece I was looking for. And after that, the guidance started to come through universe, and I started to connect with my inner voice because I felt home. And then the journey within started.
Mm.
So self-awareness, self-acceptance, all that comes in place. And I understood why all these things were happening, all these events, these experiences were there, all the difficult people were there actually. They were there. It was just a reflection that there's something inside me which I need to work on. But then I realized, I didn't realize earlier, but I realized later when I started Reiki journey that that was the awareness that nobody can trigger you. The switch is in you. Then
Mm.
you work on your own. And I found Reiki so profound because it allowed me to unlearn all that what I learned before,
Yeah.
and relearn to become who I'm meant to be. And I think that feeling of gave me so much peace within, and trust in the universe, and trust in the flow of life, that all these experiences and events are there to shape you.
Mm. It's
And
that
that's it.
lovely saying that things don't happen to you, they happen for you.
Yes,
Right?
absolutely.
Yeah, I love
Absolutely.
that.
And that's the biggest revelation, I would say, once we come on this. And as you always keep saying, when in the class, like, Reiki is a calling. So
Mm.
now I understand the calling was there, and then when I was 19 years old, but I wasn't ready. Then once I learned lessons and I was ready, the calling came on the face.
Yeah.
Now you are ready, you come in and you begin.
I was like, yes, we've been waiting. So I wanted to go back to something you said about, like psychotherapy, counseling, all these things are really good for opening you up. Like when you've been kind of shut down over the years, right? And told what you're experiencing or what you're feeling is not valid or not right. And then, you're weak and you need to be strong. First of all, I'm fascinated by that because I heard that too, right? And it's kind of like, what does strong actually mean? Because in this definition, when people are telling you to be strong, what they're telling you actually is to suppress, right? Don't cry. Don't show emotion. And when they talk about be more resilient around your emotions, actually that what they're saying is don't feel them.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Which then when you start your spiritual journey, you realize that's the opposite of strength. Right? Because
And that's I mean,
strength is fully being able to be present with your strong emotions and
yeah,
and process them. So really it's not about suppressing your emotions, it's about diving in deeper to the feeling the emotions more, right?
yes. And
Yeah.
that's what understanding came in when I was into psychotherapy and counseling and hypnotherapy, that these are the emotions, and crying is healing.
Yeah.
So crying is not weakness. And if you're sensitive, it's not weakness. It's a
Yeah.
strength.
Yeah.
And there I made that discernment into like what is weak and what is strong.
So
And
what's your definition now? What's your definition now of strength?
I would say like self-acceptance, because that also comes with the strength. It needs courage to accept yourself and being aware of what happened in your life. There was a reason, there was a meaning to it. And once you accept it, then comes the empowerment. So once I was aware of it, like how these emotions were playing its role, but it's not for bad. It's just that I'm empathetic. I'm compassionate. That's why I can feel more.
Mm.
But how to emotionally regulate them and build more resilience, emotional resilience. That part came in when I'm healing. Now I need to heal. Once I've accepted myself, now I need to heal. And after healing, the empowerment comes, because the trust comes in like, I'm not wrong, I'm not weak. And I'm happy about it, who I am.
So is that what healing means to you? Because that was my other question when you were saying that it opens, so the counseling opens things up, but then it doesn't have the healing. And when you did Reiki, that has the healing. So what does healing mean to you? Like what do you mean by that?
I would say the inner peace.
So again, acceptance, really.
Yes. Is the inner peace, is emotional regulation gave me inner peace. And then it started to build that journey to go within. I mean, I would say the journey from the mind to the heart. And that is my definition. Like once you go within, you connect with yourself. That's where, you understand the deeper meaning of who am I, why I'm here, what is the purpose, and the meaning of life. All these, they were words before. Or when in the school they're trying to explain, it's just the words. But to assimilate that inside and feel it, who am I? It's a different thing. And I feel like that's where the empowerment part comes in. Then you feel empowered. You feel inner peace. I mean, the outer world, whatever is happening, there's a peace within me.
Yeah.
And it's a trust.
Would you say it's like a shift when you've been in situations, and all of us as children have this, right? Like the adults tell us what we should be feeling and thinking, and to different degrees. Like I think for some of us, if we're lucky to have been brought up in quite an empowered environment, then the parents and the caregivers and the schools and all the, as you say, the authority figures will help us to come to our own decisions and conclusions and beliefs and things like this. But most of us, and I think particularly in Asia, I think it's kind of worse, right? Whereby there's a lot of
the cultural impact.
Yeah, there's a lot of cultural stuff around. We all need to think the same thing. We all need to feel the same way. There's a lot of filial duty. There's a lot of obedience in the culture. Certainly in the Chinese culture, when I was growing up, it was like obedience equals love. So the more obedient, if you're a good girl, then you will be loved. It's very transactional, and that's very deeply rooted in the culture. And so breaking out of that is quite an achievement, actually, I think, because it takes a huge amount of courage to break free, or not necessarily break free, because it doesn't mean you rebel, right? So it's kind of like, are you now at a stage where you can see all of these beliefs and cultural like structures, and still be able to understand, but that's just the cultural norms. I don't have to be like that or feel like that, or what's it feel like inside?
The point which you said is very profound. Like, is Indian cultures is same as the cultural impact or the values were deeply ingrained in me too. That love others, be kind to others, be compassionate to others. There was no definition or there was no wording as self-love. Self-love means you're selfish.
Yes. Yeah, right.
So, yeah. So it's like always outside. The focus was external. It was never inside. So healing also gave me that opportunity to self-love, to fill my own cup. If I cannot love myself, I truly cannot love others, because I didn't understand the meaning of love then. So that is the breakthrough, I would say, happened when I started my Reiki journey too. Is self-love, self-acceptance.
Yeah. So it's almost like turning the focus, because all our lives we're kind of brought up to focus, exactly like you say, to focus outwards. Is everybody else okay? Am I taking care of everybody else? Is everybody else's needs met? And then you get to the point where you suddenly look back and there's nothing there. Right? Like you say, it's like, oh, but who am I and what are my needs? And sometimes the only indication you get that your needs are not being met is this deep agitation or sadness, or for me, it used to come out in irritation and anger. Yeah. And then you're like, oh, something's lack of inner peace. Exactly like you say, lack of inner peace, because there's nobody home taking care of you.
Absolutely. And being an elder child, being a girl, I was supposed to take care of the siblings. Then and it's kind of like I never looked back, or maybe I would say like I didn't have courage even to see myself in the mirror and see eye to eye because there's no focus. It's always outside, satisfy others, make harmony, love others. That's where I am considered as a good girl or accepted by the society or family.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then once we are on a healing and the empowerment comes in, it feels like it doesn't matter. I accept myself and I love myself. And that's the missing piece.
So has all of that awareness, like now that you are taking care of yourself as much or even more as you are taking care of others, has that actually changed the way you are externally as well?
I feel there's a lot of personal growth.
Mm.
And with harmony and acceptance, I'm able to give closure to difficult relationships because the forgiveness part comes, the let go. And I feel like I would have not been able to do it if I'm not on a healing or journey or with Reiki.
So that's really interesting. So how do you feel that greater inner awareness or kind of like understanding who you are and what your needs are, how does that translate into forgiving others?
I felt like I need peace. I'm not responsible for their healing. I'm not responsible for if they are not aware of where they are. I can plant the seed, but I'm not there to I can hold the space, but still they need to take the healing. They need to be I would say like responsible for their own part. And forgiveness comes in play like I started to see where they are, not what I expect them to do.
Right.
That expectation part is not there. So acceptance is not only mine. Acceptance is like what they are doing. I mean, that's what they can do. It's something like you see a primary school student as a primary school student. Even you are in the secondary school. So you don't see them as secondary school. You know primary school student will do this and I accept it. But if I'm getting disturbed, maybe I work on my anger. Or maybe I work on my frustration. So I make that boundary and I'm like forgive because maybe they don't need forgiveness for the things they have done, but I need peace. I need to detach. So more I go deeper into this journey of healing, I realize that detachment is the best thing. And I think I'm at this moment, if you ask me, Elaine, where I am at the part of detachment. I'm not saying that I don't love others or I don't, but love is different. And I'm loving from the far is also love. But I'm detached. I'm not attached. There's no expectation there. And that's where I can connect with my inner peace more and more and deeply. And I can love myself more and more. So it doesn't matter what's happening there, but my inner world is peaceful.
Yeah.
And that reflected because it took me a few months only to realize that I need to unlearn and relearn and come into self-acceptance. I realized all those physical dis-ease, which on the paper made it disease, they all stopped and all the medications were removed and my file was closed. Then I realized the power of healing.
Wow.
That is the balance what we are looking for, the mental, emotional, physical, and of course the spiritual, where you go within and connect with your inner world, is the journey within.
That's really interesting. So when you started to do your Reiki, and you started to get this sense. So really the Reiki was, were you coming into Reiki for the physical healing, or was it just something that you thought, oh my gosh, this is like coming home? And then like, how did that trigger?
Well, the first intention to come to Reiki was self-heal. And when I was a child, I vaguely remember that my father always used to say that our body has its own innate wisdom. It knows how to heal. So I thought, like, if it is so intelligent, then why I'm not able to heal? Why I'm on medications? And my mother always used to teach me the 5 principles, what we do in Reiki. But then, because I was a child and I was confused, I think I didn't inculcate all those values fully. So when I came to Reiki with an intention to do self-heal and heal myself physically, because I knew this aspect of it that our body knows, but how? That how part brings me here. And when I came and I experienced it, it gave me a feeling of I'm home. It validated all that what I was experiencing. It connected with the inner voice.
And then as you were doing your Reiki treatments, then you just noticed the physical symptoms started healing.
Yes, slowly. And to the extent that within 6 months, doctor told me, what have you been doing? And because doctors are like specialists, so we cannot challenge them. I just said that I'm doing healing and I'm a Reiki practitioner. He couldn't accept, or maybe I think he just saw the reports are getting better and better every 3 months when they do the test, but he couldn't accept it. However, once he closed the file, he said, young lady, do whatever you are doing it because it worked for you.
Yeah.
And that gave me such a confidence that within 6 months, if I can, from that drastic state, if I can recover and I can just stand back and doctors can close the file, that's a magic. That's a miracle for me.
Yeah.
So there's no reason not to believe it.
Yeah. Right. That's amazing.
And when people say, I take medications for that, I say, no, I do healing. And that's the part which rewired me from low confidence to be confident. And you are okay and all is well. So all these things brings a lot of inner peace. And I believe that's the journey of what you rightly always used to say, that any spiritual practice you do, it's a gateway to your own spirituality.
Yeah.
And that's part.
And this is the thing that it's interesting when you were talking about forgiveness as well. It's like that whole focus on what brings me peace and what spins me into war or agitation or contraction. And that's what we look at, right? Whether it is a physical illness or whether it's an emotional tightness or whether it's a relationship issue, it's kind of like, how are we disempowering ourselves by giving all that energy to the external, thinking about what they should be doing or what we should be doing or what you know what I mean? All that bullying that goes on in our minds. And then, as you've noticed, that it has deep ramifications in the physical body as well, right? When we hold all of that confusion, then the physical body is going to get damaged by that.
Yeah, it's just that physical body is shouting, take care of your emotions, take care of your thoughts, because the thoughts are like self-sabotage. Because you're self-sabotaging yourself because you're expecting so much and not able to let go of feelings, or there's no courage to let go of the difficult relationships because you become entitled with those difficult relationships. You have name tags with them. So having that courage to accept and forgive those people and let go. I believe that takes a lot of courage to do that.
Yeah.
And I think I would have not been able to do with the self-awareness, which the journey started from the counseling, where I understood what are the emotions. and how emotions play a greater role. And when I came to the healing, which gave me emotional healing and emotional resilience, I would say, and I become more resilient towards it.
Mm. So with all of that happening, obviously you didn't need any proof that Reiki works, because you could see pretty clearly that Reiki works. So what then kind of moved you forward in the journey from being quite, like you're saying, not very confident, confused, not really sure about yourself, to now teaching Reiki, working in groups, you know, like I know you hold your own Zoom healing sessions and all that kind of thing. That's quite a transformation, right?
Yes. So I would say like the empowerment, the next stage came at the transformation. Like if I can heal, you can do so.
Mm.
So then I started I feel like if you have been gifted with some kind of a blessing or some kind of, I mean, in this case, we have Reiki, right? So I share my gift, and that's all I say to people. I have been gifted, I've been blessed, I'm sharing my gifts, and the gift is Reiki. So if you want to experience, I'm here. And once they come here, come experience, and that's how I don't know how it started to expand the Zoom healing, and people from different countries, they come, and it became really a sacred space of healing. And I'm amazed, like from last 4 years, every Saturday, how people can come and log in a Zoom.
Mm.
So I leave it to Reiki to some questions are still unanswered, but I trust the flow of life and I trust the divine. I trust the universe. It's the universe who's doing it. And thank you for choosing me for being the vessel to be there. So that's the only message, that if I can heal and I can change, you can do so.
Mm. Yeah,
That's
beautiful. So what
and
have been some of the highlights for you in terms of being that vessel, if you like?
oh, I feel grateful. I really feel grateful. And it's kind of like validation that universe, why universe you want to choose me? Maybe I have done some work on myself. Or I would say all those parts of me where people told me that I'm weak, like being empathetic or feeling more emotions. I think those were my own gifts.
Yeah.
And that is the reason I feel grateful here to be a vessel, that I can feel more. I can understand like what the pain you are going through. So it helps me to connect. But there's a detachment part, that I've went through this and there is a light in the end of the tunnel. So that's the only message, that I have seen this light end of the tunnel, but you have to walk through this tunnel, and you can walk through with healing. It can give you that empowerment, or maybe the courage.
Yeah, that's really powerful. So it's kind of like, what you now know to be your gift? When you were growing up, you were told it was a weakness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gosh, I wonder how many people would reflect on that. Like, I wonder how many of us are sitting on our gifts, thinking they're weaknesses. And because we were told by society, culture, whatever, that it wasn't useful,
Yeah.
or wasn't the way that the culture was moving. So therefore, you know, but that's really interesting, because I would say that's probably my superpower as well, the empathy. Right. And then it's coming to realize that is actually a superpower. Like, all of us have gifts. And it's really coming into an understanding of what your gift is in terms
Absolutely.
of, right, and how it expresses. And then, like, for yourself, realizing that your empathy and your sensitivity is your gift gives you, it's not, is it even the courage, or is it just natural now for you to then become this channel or vessel for other people to do their healing?
I think that's the feeling of home.
Yeah.
Reconnecting with yourself, and that's what who you are. It's just that you didn't get the opportunity to unpack your gifts earlier,
Yeah.
and really gave you that strength, or that gave you that power. Now you have strength to open them and unpack your gifts and know who you are. This is what you are. So I feel that's the reason I feel I'm home. And the more inner work we do, I feel that it reflects on the outer world as well. We
Definitely.
start to we start to connect those people where your soul doesn't need to scream. You just connect, and you don't know how you connect with them, and it feels like all is well. You don't
Mm.
find difficult things, and even you find difficult things, you have compassion for them, that maybe one day you will see the light too, and you send blessing, and just move on.
Yeah.
So it gives a lot of peace.
Yeah, I love that. That's a really interesting thing about the this is home. Is kind of maybe this is why so many people, when they have their first Reiki experience, if you like, or they start working with Reiki, it's that feeling of homecoming, because all the societal, cultural belief systems, judgments, all that stuff is not present in Reiki. Right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like there's no space for that. It's just universal life force, which is the totality. And so we can be completely natural in that space, right? And then maybe that's where that feeling of home, and then we're like, oh, this is who I am. This is what I'm here for. This is, oh yeah, that's really cool. I like that a lot.
Thank you. And that's where clarity came in play, and I felt like, oh, this is the meaning of life then. And
Mm,
that's the purpose of my life, to be there till I'm here. And that gave me that transformed on another level. That just shine your light. I mean, you are light. That's it.
yeah.
So that somebody else guide you, that you are light, connect with your light, and you really feel that I'm light. It's kind of, I think it takes our healing journey deeper to feel that I'm just light, and that's what I am. And I
Mm,
realized there's so much of lightness in that feeling,
yeah.
and which reflects outside too. So there's no heavy burden we are carrying. And that lightness can be seen with that calm and composure and the peace we keep in every situation, because it's not triggering us anymore.
Mm.
Response is changed. There's no reaction, there's a response to it.
So have you noticed that people in your past that you might have been a bit more triggered around, or even like family that had all these expectations, have you noticed that they respond differently to you as well?
Absolutely. Because initially, my family didn't accept me because I come from the corporate world. I mean, spent 11 years over there getting a gorgeous salary and, just living a life for that. Though I'm an introvert, so I'm not party oriented kind of a person, but I'm not extravagant. But then still, I was earning good amount, red carpet life. So my family thought, huh? You live all that experience and then you do something weird, simple, and then yet you look more happier than before. So I feel my family accepted it with
Mm.
great difficulty. And the first time I still remember, because it's been ingrained deeply, my mother saw me, because my mother is quite spiritual. And when she saw me from an angry, frustrated person to a very peaceful, and when she comes to the Zoom session, everyone is like Zen. Then she's like, the first statement came to her mouth is like, she's not my daughter. She's not the one who I know. and and I was like, oh my God, Mom, what happened? I'm still your daughter. She said, no, no, no. I cannot imagine the change in you. I mean, I cannot imagine how you have transformed. I mean, and you become the strength for me now. So she started to feel that the areas of her life where she couldn't become her own voice, then I'm giving her voice. And slowly, my father is logical, so he started to see the change on his physical. And then he started to believe, though he didn't believe until unless people who knows my family, they came and they say, oh, Niru did healing and I feel better. Thank you so much. When they started to thank you, then he feels, oh, maybe she's doing something. And then slowly he's accepted. But I accepted it because it's their journey too.
Yeah.
And when they accept fully, or when they come on that alignment, it's their journey. So that's where the part of detachment comes in. I love them. I love my family. And yet I'm detached.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Because I think a lot of people, when they think of detachment, they pair it with not caring. But actually, there's a big difference. It's kind of like detachment is more not letting your energy merge with their energy so that everything that happens to them impacts you or affects you, because then you spend all your time trying to control what they're doing so you don't get impacted, right?
Yeah.
Whereas when you're detached, they have freedom to be and do whatever they want.
Absolutely.
Because it's not, you're not entangled with it. You're no longer needing to control their behavior so that you can feel better. So with detachment, you can fully love, right? It's the opposite. Yeah.
And yet you can say no.
Yeah.
So that's the freedom part. So it liberates you from being yes every time, or I am responsible for the harmony, I am responsible for that, and then you self-sabotage yourself that oh, I'm good enough. That we believe, then we start to make another belief structure, and we live rest of our life with that belief structure. So I'm here, I'm loving, I'm holding the space, but yet I'm not in there. I'm detached.
Yeah.
So if I'm detached, I feel like there's a lot of freedom when we are detached. Is for other people what you just said, that, let them do what they do. And I don't have any expectations with them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it gives them, then in a sense, it gives them the total non-judgment freedom to be themselves, just as you want to be yourself, right? So it's almost like the more detached you are, the more freedom people around you also feel.
Absolutely.
Because they don't have to be a certain way for you either. Because sometimes I think when we take on everybody's burdens, and I know this happens to a lot of my patients, it's like the people around them then no longer feel that they can talk to them because they're worried they're going to burden them further. Right. So it's kind of like when people know you're not burdened by their problems, they can then openly discuss their problems with you.
Yeah, I think it creates a ripple effect. Like once you are kind of like, remember you always used to say that in the class, that when you're shining, you come to that stage of healing and you're shining your own light. You're actually creating the space for others to shine, and maybe in their own time they will go on a healing journey. But you have already given that sparkle of light to them, and it's your choice when they are ready.
Yeah, like for all of us, right? Like for you, it's like somebody tried to share the Reiki gift with you when you were 19, but there was still a process of opening that you had to go through in order to be kind of not ready, but just it became the natural next step, because then you can kind of see, oh, I've opened, like with all the psychotherapy and the psychology, that I've opened. And then now the Reiki can come in and do the settling, the self-acceptance. From what I'm hearing, you're kind of saying, well, a lot of healing is actually self-acceptance and acceptance of what's happening outside as well, right? That detachment.
Yeah.
So
it's a journey
beautiful.
of and freedom.
Yeah, really nice. So if people want to get hold of you, how can they join the Saturday Zoom session that you have?
For Saturday Zoom sessions, I have a WhatsApp chat group differently, and they can connect with me via Instagram, and they can just personal message me, and I will add them into the group,
Okay.
and they receive the Zoom link every Friday. Every
Okay.
Friday, I give a Zoom link for Saturday morning, and that's all. So
So
I have.
we'll add your Instagram account in the details below if anyone's interested. And
Sure.
also, if anyone's interested in connecting with Niru in general for healing, for Reiki classes, anything like that, she is a beautiful, beautiful energy, as you can tell by just listening to her talk here. It's been so amazing chatting with you, like really, really lovely. And I'm seeing a different side of you as well. Like we've known each other for so long. And I was saying this as well. When I interview people, it's like, oh, there's a whole other thing we never talk about. I don't know. It's just so fun. I'm really enjoying doing this. So I hope you enjoyed this too.
Absolutely. And I enjoyed, and I'm so grateful from the beginning of first session till here. I'm grateful for you to hold space so we can shine our light, I think.
Right.
So you are the lighthouse for us. Thank you so much, Leela.
Thank you, my dear. Speak to you soon. Bye,
Bye-bye.
everyone.